Casey Jacox, good to see you, my friends. Thank you for coming on the Books4Guys podcast this week. It is an honor to have you.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here, man. I'm excited. I'm glad we found each other through the wide world of LinkedIn, and look forward to having a great conversation today.
Yeah, I think with both of our backgrounds, I think we know how to navigate LinkedIn pretty well. I appreciate you messaging me back on LinkedIn. And obviously, man, we came to talk about your book today. I've got it right here. Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. And man, I think I'm more excited than most just because of our backgrounds being so similar. You know, I'm a little bit younger in my career, but you being at K-Force, you know, for almost 20 years, and I'm going on year 11 in the recruiting space, but also being a former athlete. And there was just a lot of things reading in your book that I remember as like a young recruiter and young sales, there were a lot of things that I had to learn that you talk about. But even as a more seasoned business development individual now, there's a lot of refreshers in that book to where I think everyone, if you're, you know, trying to be at the top of your game, it's good to revisit some of those points that you make. So, but man, just to kick things off, for those that don't know you, you know, and they're listening to this episode for the first time and they're wondering who Casey is, give us just kind of a brief background of your career and kind of where it's led you to now.
Well, I always say I'm a dad first, so I always work on being the best version of me as a dad and husband, because without that, I'm not going to be good in the business world. But like most people, when I grew up, it's not like I had these staffing gods on my wall next to Dan Marino and Joe Montana and executives. I mean, for me, I stumbled into it thanks to my good buddy Kelly Hansen, who's still at K-Force. And I worked for a company called Hall Kenyon before K-Force. K-Force purchased Hall Kenyon in June of 2004. I started as my first job out of school was a barcoding salesperson. I mean, I was selling, I called them stickers. They're like, no, they're labels. I'm like, no, they're kind of like stickers, and which showed my level of maturity. And I remember, like, when I was at that job, I remember meeting with my sales leader for the first time, and he said, "Hey, what are your goals in this job?" And I said, "Well, I want to double after it was like my 1-year review, and I go, I want to double my salary, and I want to be in front of the customer because I was an inside salesperson." And he goes, "Man, those are really too aggressive goals for someone your age." And so right when he said that, I knew that this was not the place for me. And so my buddy Kelly talked about this place called Hall Kenyon, and I didn't really understand, like, wait, you're placing contractors, and I just wasn't clicking because I didn't understand it. And so I interviewed 9 times, and thankfully Lisa Crawford gave me a chance, my first boss at Hall Kenyon, and I was an hourly contract salesperson making like $17 an hour, and I thought I was like, hit the jackpot, right? And which I didn't realize how dumb of a decision that was, because I mean, I could have got let go for sneezing at the wrong time because I was a contractor, but it was they offered me that job because they weren't sure I could make it. And you don't tell a Division II athlete you can't make it.
Yeah,
I feel like all D2 athletes have a chip on their shoulder. You know, I would say right guy, right time, right place, but got surrounded by really, really amazing teammates, a lot of great mentors along the way that helped me, guys like Jeffrey Neal and Kai Mitchell and Joel Eggy and such, and just helped me apply the lessons of, you know, adversity and sports. But yeah, I spent 20 years. I was lucky enough to be our #1 producer for 10 straight years nationally, then moved into an executive role. And then the journey I'm on now, it found me. I did not mean to be a sales and leadership coach, but it is a calling, Chris. It is so fun. And it's just so fun to help people learn things that I wish I learned earlier in my career.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I find joy in that too. Obviously, you know, it's great when you have leaders that like you had, and I know I had similar, where as a young rookie salesperson, they poured into me too, and you know they teach you how to be, you know, good people, good salespeople, and a lot of similar principles that you write about. But it's cool to see how you yourself grow as a person, and then you've got other people that you see having similar struggles that maybe you did. It's fun to kind of walk them through, like, hey man, you'll be fine, just do this, overcome this, and you'll look back in a few years and you're gonna be thankful you did that. But again, I think that's just why your book resonated with me so much. So I was like, man, I remember doing this. Hey, I remember this. I remember this.
Well,
But man,
and real quick, I was going to say that's the thing that I've probably come to appreciate it more now. Well, and kind of embarrassing as the author, I've read the book north of 10 times, not because I'm an egomaniac, just through like the editing process, or when I'm working with a client on coaching, I might reread it part of the chapter, and I learn from myself, which tells me I'm flawed just like everybody else. But I think like the reinforcement of habits is how we get better outcomes.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I love AI, and I know AI automation, those are like the hot things right now, but I still think the lost art is slowing down, focusing on the fundamentals, focusing on how you make people feel, how you connect, the questions you ask, how you follow up. That stuff's not going to get, I mean, I don't think it's going to replace, I'm betting on that. And so either I'm going to go out of business betting on being a nice person and doing the right things and asking great questions. But I think it's timeless. I mean, people like Socrates and Stephen Covey, and they've been talking about this stuff for years, and still important to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to talk too much about staffing, but it is interesting. A lot of people that don't know about that world, I'm kind of like yourself. I didn't know about it when I got introduced to it. And similar to you, a friend was like, "Hey man, I think you'd like this. You get to help people find jobs and you can make good money." And I was like, "Sweet, sign me up." And but there's I don't think people realize the lessons you can learn in the staffing world. I mean, it truly is as you get going. And I know again things have changed with AI and emails and stuff, but you learn a lot of lessons making 100, 150 cold calls and really hustling, trying to, make your commission. And there's a lot of lessons that I'm sure you learned along the way that are, again, led you to where you're at now, being able to coach and help others. But,
Mm-hmm.
um, man, Casey, as you grew in your career, did you have any foreshadowing or any knowledge or desire to write a book as you were going through K Force? Was that ever on your radar at all?
Yeah, actually, I would say at about year 11 or 12, I remember, maybe 13-ish, somewhere in that range. I remember, you ever see the movie Christmas Vacation?
Yeah,
When
one
Griswold
of my
sees his,
favorites.
yeah, it's American classic. And so like,
Yeah.
remember when he sees his tree
Mhm.
and it's like glowing? That's the analogy I give when I said the phrase "win the relationship, not the deal." And I remember I was traveling to Dallas, and I was working with a younger sales force that didn't have a lot of experience. And I always kind of say I was like the older brother. They were the younger brother trying to make big brother proud of them. And I remember challenging them. I said, "Guys, we have to go. I expect you to win every deal, but you're not. But more importantly, I expect you to win people." And they kind of looked at me like a blank stare, like, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" And I said, "It's like, think about it. For example, let's say that if we lose a deal to like ABC company, and I say, 'Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it's Casey with at the time K-Force. I'm bummed that we weren't able to get this position filled for you, but I wanted to follow up to make sure that you had a good experience with company ABC.' And so three things would happen, Chris. Either they'd say, 'Hey, Casey, thanks for following up. Yep, we love the talent we got, and we'll give you a chance to compete next time.' Or they'd say, 'Hey, Casey, yeah, thanks for following up. Ironically, I haven't heard from the firm we hired these people from, but thanks for following up.' When I heard that, boom, differentiated myself." Or lastly, they'd say, 'Hey, Casey, thanks for following up. Unfortunately, yeah, the people that we thought were good, they're not. We actually let them go. Is your person still available?' So I'd pick up low hanging fruit. And so right when I said that, I said, "You got to win. We have to win the relationship, not the deal." And right when I said that, I was like, "That's it."
Yeah.
And I knew I did not want to write when I was still at K4 because I didn't think that was fair to them or me because I would have been distracted. And so I just kept that thought in my mind. And once I knew the time was right for me to exit, I was going to write. And so when I left, I left in March of 19, took a few months off to get my mind right. And then for 4 months, I wrote every single day from 9 to 11:30, every single
Wow.
day.
Wow.
And some days I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And it sucked. And then some days it was like, I thought it sucked and it ended up maybe it was better than I thought. And, yeah, long-winded answer. I knew I wanted to write mainly to prove that football players could put sentences together.
Yeah, love
Um,
that. No, love that. Yeah, football players, maybe not, they don't get as bad of a rap now, but for sure, at a certain point, there was a time where football players were dumb, couldn't do a lot. But you're right. Staffing was a great industry for athletes. I brought one of my college teammates along with me too. Just ultra competitive. One of the most fun jobs ever too. Working with one of your best friends and you guys just going at it every day, trying to fill a role. There's nothing better, in my opinion, when you're kind of a young buck out of school,
yeah.
learning how to be a professional. But no, that's awesome that you as you were climbing, throughout your career and you started realizing like, hey, I've got something to offer back. I can write a book, I can coach, I'm good at teaching. You wanted to give back. I guess what was kind of when you did decide to actually say, I'm going to step away and go this route of writing a book and becoming a teacher and a coach and helping others, what was kind of I guess, what was the moment that made you say, okay, I'm done, I'm transitioning?
I think, well, for me, I think that my role, I was in this executive role, pseudo executive role, and it just changed. And at the time, the role that they wanted me to play really didn't align with what I wanted to do long term. And I really kind of worked myself out of a job. And most people, when they leave a company after 20 years, it could be like, oh, but I left on great terms, and I wish them nothing but the best. And people could say, oh, you're an idiot, you walked away from so much. I mean, maybe in the short term financially, sure, but I think the gift of karma is legit. The gift of giving back is legit. And I just find there was this little voice in my head that kept telling me, dude, you got to do something else. And I don't know why it kept speaking to me. And then I remember talking to a couple of my customers, and they're like one of them, I won't say this person's name, but this person goes, Casey, when I talk to you, it's different. When I talk to everybody else, it's not the same. I want you to go out and change the world. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not freaking Gandhi. How am I going to change the
Yeah.
world? But I mean, this sign up here, believe, it's part of the work I do with customers, and I believe in myself. I believe what I do matters. And so it further reminds me that the world needs people with real life experience to teach.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you want, I can share a story of how I got into the coaching journey, which is kind of a funny one.
Yeah. Would love that.
I remember my very first customer, shout out to Leslie Vickery at Clear Edge Marketing. Leslie, at one point, this is back in 2020, she was looking for a coach for her vice president at the time. And she asked me if I knew anybody. I was like, the first thought in my head was like, oh my God, I could do this.
Yeah.
But the voice that the story I was telling myself, Chris, was, well, I'm not certified. I'm not a certified coach. And I remember calling a guy named Andrew in Toronto. And we were having a similar kind of Zoom type thing. And I go, hey, I think I'm supposed to get into coaching, but I'm not certified. I'd love your advice on what's the best way to go about doing it. He goes, hey man, can I be honest with you? I go, yeah, that's why I called you for. I want your advice. He's like, I'm going to be honest with you, but I don't think you can take it. I go, I think I can. I mean, I've thrown 4 interceptions in a game, got booed in a stadium. I've been a part of earnings calls. I've been a part of some of the biggest deals in our company history, some of the biggest flops. I said, I think I can take it. He's like, all right, cool. So what I know about you, Casey, is you've done, 1, 2, and 3. You've achieved A, B, and C. I go, yeah. He goes, quote, then get out of my mother effing face and stop wasting my mother effing time. And I'm just like, what? He goes, hey, dumbass, here's your certification. You wrote a book about it. I was like, oh my God, thank you. So I hung up with him, called Leslie back, the CEO, and I go, hey, Les, are you still looking for a coach? He goes, yeah, I just told you that like 2 minutes ago, and I got to go to another call. I go, I think I found your guy. Can I tell you about him? And I described myself in third person. She's like, oh my God, who is it? I go, it's me. When do I start? She's like, what? I go, I know. I have a business license. I don't really have a good website. I'm the only person here at the company, which is me, but I'm so confident that I can help this person. I can change her habits. So how about this? Whatever you're going to pay a coach, how about you pay me 75% of that? And if I don't change your habits after 3 months, I'll give you all your money back. And she's like, let's do it. I'm like, and I literally have not looked back, and every client I've worked with for the last 5 years has been personal referral. And, it's been an amazing, amazing journey.
Yeah. You just needed 1 minute of confirmation.
That's right.
That's all you needed.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome though. Yeah, it's cool that you had people, and you kind of mentioned the other lady too. Just little signs, little words of encouragement, kind of like little nuggets for you. Again, being dropped for you to know, like, hey, this is the path I'm going to go. Hey, others think that I would be good at this. Like, I need to pursue this route. That's awesome though. There's nothing like some direct criticism or direct momentum from someone like that. But that's awesome. Yeah, and yet now you've been doing it for, I mean, gosh, over 5 years now. And do you find yourself, because just your background being in the staffing industry, do you find yourself working with a lot of staffing companies, or is it pretty broad across the spectrum of sales teams?
It's been broad, but I think right now it's the companies that have hired me to either do fractional executive work or sales and performance coach for, like, whether it's a sales leader or a sales team. I mean, staffing has been right now the bread and butter, just because of, spent 20 years. There hasn't been a problem that's been put in front of me that I've not experienced. Now I might have just jinxed myself right there, but it's fun when you have the answers to the test, because you've seen the game film or you've seen the experience and and I'm a big believer of not giving people the answers, but using curiosity to help others come to their own rescue or their own conclusion, so that that's where the true learning is at.
Yeah.
But I've spoke at TaylorMade, Stryker, Keller Williams as well, so that's, real estate, insurance, golf. Primarily, I'd say the focus has been in the IT staffing, consulting, professional services space.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. I always, I just, I crave coaching myself, and I always love to share a story. I had a VP, a long time ago. I remember him taking me out to lunch as a young rep, and him asking me all kinds of questions about myself, my family, my background. And I remember him taking me back to the office, and he asked me a couple of questions about him. Hey Chris, my dog's name. Do you know where my daughter went to school at? And I couldn't tell him anything, and he was just like, "Good lesson for you to learn right here on how to be more curious about others." But it was talking about again, building relationships, get to knowing other people, and not talking as much about yourself. But it was just such a cool lesson, and I'm sure you kind of go through that as well, just the importance of getting to know people and building that relationship and that trust and being there when needed, and that sort of thing. But did as you wrote your book, were there books throughout your career that had an impact on you, whether they be sales books or personal development books, or are there books that you read on a yearly basis because they have that much impact on you personally?
I read a ton. Yeah. I mean, I'm always reading. I think a couple books come to mind. One, Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers,
Yeah, that's a great one. Love that book.
Patrick Lencioni's book called Getting Naked. I always joke with people, don't search Getting Naked in your company
Yeah.
Google search. You might not, I don't want to
Might not go
what's
well.
right. But make sure you put Patrick Lencioni. And that book's really kind of cemented why that my three, I always say, superpowers I like to work on is being humble, being vulnerable, and being curious. And I think
Mhm.
that book that Lencioni wrote, Getting Naked, is all about that. And then the other book, my former college teammate, Ryan Fournier, he had me read a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it's fantastic. And so it's like, it talks about each day we have these slight edge moments. It's like, am I going to work out? Am I not? Am I going to do gratitude? Am I not? Am I going to have 2 donuts for breakfast, or I'm going to have yogurt? Like, whatever these slight edge moments that lead to the next set of decisions throughout the day really impact the outcome of the day.
Yeah.
And same thing in sales. It's like, am I going to ask more questions up front, or am I going to go share my screen and pitch a 55-page slide deck, and they're going to black out and fall asleep and never call me again? Am I going to send a detailed meeting recap that highlights what I listened to and I heard from the customer, or am I not? So I love learning from others. Other book I'd say is Pushing to the Front
Okay.
by what's his name? Orion.
Okay.
Back in the 1500s or 1600s, 1800s, they were talking about these little things about being curious, treating people the way you want to be treated, being nice. Like, to me, that stuff's still important. And
Yeah.
you're never going to go meet with a person that says, man, that guy's such a nice person, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't ever? And if you create a good experience, kind of like you just talked about your bosses, remembering these little things. If a customer or a prospect mentions something that like is about them, that's like they're giving you the golf ball on the tee to ask a question next time you meet them. And what I realized, that was maybe an uncommon skill, but most top sellers or great or elite sellers, they're really good at remembering everything they document, and they're always leading with curiosity versus a solution. Because in selling, I think it's about being a curious storyteller, and kind of the books I mentioned, that really kind of further cemented it for me.
Yeah. I'm going to add those to my list. I've read Outliers. I've actually read Outliers twice. I just found the statistics in there so interesting. I'll have to add the other ones because I do love the fact of like the small decisions that you make, the discipline that you can
Hmm.
do on a day to day basis and stack those wins. Uh, that's just something I personally believe in a lot of different aspects of life. And I'm sure it sounds like the book goes into that. I love that you mentioned being curious a lot too. It kind of reminds me, I read there's actually a business book. Well, it's called like it's based off Ted Lasso. It's called like the Lasso Rules or something like that. I read it last
Hmm.
year, but then I saw a video the other day, and it was talking about his throwing darts moment, where it's be curious, not judgmental, but being open minded, getting to know people, asking a lot of questions. Ted Lasso's a good person to follow too, to learn how to build relationships. Good book. I'll find it, send that one to you.
It's funny, Chris. So you can't see it right now, but there's a sign here behind on my wall.
Yeah.
It's a poster of Ted Lasso without his eyes, it's just his skin.
Yeah.
So imagine my face here without just, skin down here, no eyes, and it says "Be curious, not judgmental."
Okay.
So
That's awesome. Awesome. Small world. Yeah, literally. I love Ted Lasso. I could watch that show over and over again. And then
Mhm.
when they had the book come out on just some of the principles, it's really good because it's geared towards business and relationship building and just how to be a leader the way Ted Lasso is. And so, yeah, that one line sticks with me a lot. Just, being just in life, meeting people, different backgrounds. And obviously in sales, you talk to so many different people. It's just a good thing to keep in the back of your head. Um, when going about that. But Casey, I mean, your book obviously is going to be timeless. There's lessons here that in 20 years sales reps can still be following. But as you've written this book and you continue to learn yourself, as you said, you read your book over and over, you continue to learn things you wrote about. As you continue to coach and as the world changes, do you think you'll write another book at some point that maybe a little different than this one?
I get that question a lot. My answer is yes, and I think it will be all about curiosity. But
Love
I
that.
feel like there's so much more that I can get out of this book because there's so many people that I'll come across that'll be like, you know, they'll read it, or like, someone's been in sales for 18 years, like, oh my God, I forgot the power of documenting, or I forgot the power of practice, or I forgot the power of patience. So I feel like I have a lot of runway left in this book
Yeah.
that I'm hoping to impact a lot more. I mean, there's 24,000 staffing companies out there. I know they all haven't read it. It tells me my market's big to go. But I think in this book, I found like in the lower right-hand corner, it says 6 common sense strategies to succeed in life and business. I don't think you have to be in sales to appreciate, because we all need to build relationships, whether
Yeah.
you're in finance, whether you're a custodian, whether you're a front desk person, a bus driver, lawyer and a jury.
Yep.
And I think the things I wrote about were bring positive energy, be really good at setting expectations, be a great listener, document what you learn about people, check your ego, practice often, and have patience. Like, who doesn't want to be good at those 6 things?
Yeah. No, it's certainly I think it's a book, Casey, that I'm gonna add to my yearly reread list. 'Cause I was actually thinking about that this morning. I was like, "Hey, this is stuff I can use at home with my wife, this is stuff I can use with my friends. This is stuff I can use at work." There's another book I recommend to others called QBQ, Question Behind the Question, and there's a
Hmm,
lot about, like, servant leadership to that book, and it's one that just talks about personal responsibility, and it's a short read. Yours is easy to read too, so it's one of those, like, every year you could find value and something different that maybe you didn't remember before or something you need to be reminded of. But I certainly think personally, your book is one that I'll reread on a yearly basis moving forward because
I
it is
appreciate
easy
that.
as a sales rep and someone who's, high performing. It is easy to get complacent in some areas where you think, hey, I don't have to do this, or you just, I don't know, there's a week that goes by and you don't prospect, and you just think like, hey, I've made it, and then before too long, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you gotta start climbing back and clawing back because things have fallen off, and you just, it's human nature. It's hard to keep that mindset of, you know, keep grinding, keep grinding, keep grinding, especially when you're having success. And so I think your book's a good reminder to do those little things on a day-to-day basis, and specifically as a sales individual, because I've been there a couple times where I've gotten to what I thought was a top, and all of a sudden very quickly found myself down the mountain again trying to climb back up it. And so you're right, I think your book, you've got a lot to offer from it, and I think there's a lot of people you're going to be able to coach through it. um, and this book will live on, you know, for a long time. I will be interested, when we talk about curiosity again, it's just one of those words that, um, I don't know, it just hits me in a different way. And so, just knowing that you might write a book more around that, I will certainly be excited for when you decide to do that and get that going.
Yeah, I appreciate the support and the kind words. And one simple thing, maybe the salespeople, if you're listening, that you can take from our conversation so far is, like, how often when you meet with someone are you hearing someone say, "Great question"? And for me, that's how I measure success of any meeting I go on. If I don't hear someone say that, that means I wasn't as curious as I could have been. And so the challenge, though, is when you hear someone say, great question, shut the F up. Let them think. Let them sit in that question, because if you made them think, you're becoming more memorable. But if you ask, sometimes I say you're asking two questions in one, or you ask a question, you keep talking, you ruin it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by 2 in 1 is this. So if I was like you a question, I could say like, yeah, hey, Chris, how's your weekend? How's the week going? Tell me how business is going. So many people do that.
Yeah.
But if I just ask you 3 questions, maybe they're all 3 good questions. Well, now you have to pick which one you're going to answer. So I would just say slow down, ask one question at a time, and listen for someone to say great question, which shows that you're prepared, shows you're curious about their business or their role or their company or their life. And then the next spot is when you ask the second and third follow-up question, which is like,
Yeah.
tell me more about that. Describe why
Yeah.
that would be important to you.
Yeah.
Things
I
like
love
that.
that.
So
Yeah. Get to the point where you can extract the most information and being able to do that efficiently in a trustworthy and friendly manner. No, I love that. And you kind of already answered this question, but I was going to ask you specifically, for people that do read your book,
mhm.
if there's nothing else they get from it, what's the one nugget that you would love for people to take away from reading this?
Ooh, that's a good question. You got a good question. That a boy. Nice job.
See what I did there?
Yeah, well played. I pick up on it. There's a piece of advice that I put in that book that really hit me at age 23 when my leader at my first job said, Casey, what's more important? Do you want to be right or do you want to get what you want? And at the first, I said, I want both. He goes, you can't pick both. You got to pick one. And I said, well, I want to get what I want. He's like, good answer. And he goes, well, why? I go, because probably what means my ego's in the way. So I would encourage people to really focus on their outcome and meeting people where they are. And when if you're ever trying to convince and tell people how right you are, or tell people why even if you're convinced you're right. Use curiosity to help someone else see why you're right versus, because if I try to convince you, most people are going to resist.
Yeah.
And so it helps me keep my ego checked, because we all have one and they're all dangerous. But that's the biggest thing I'd say is focus on getting what you want versus being right in life.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the success in life and business come into play, because that can be used with, again, your spouse, your children, your parents, your boss, your clients, coworkers.
Why do you
I
think
think
I've
that
been,
piece of
why do you
advice
think,
can
I was say, yeah,
go with everything.
why do you think I've been married almost 27 years?
Yeah.
I don't want to
Because
be
you
right, honey.
followed that rule. Yeah. Forget being right. Make sure you get what you want. No, I love that. Casey, well, where can people, and obviously I didn't mention, your podcast too, the Quarterback Dad Cast. If anybody's interested in that, I know that's an interesting podcast you got going on. That was one that when I came across your profile that intrigued me. But where can individuals find you, or get in touch with you if they're interested in either connecting with you just one-on-one, or interested in having you come coach and mentor sales teams and organizations?
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I would say if you can find me there, you can also go to my website, which is just my name, CaseyJacox.com. There's info on my book, my coaching, speaking, the podcast. There's videos from customers who've worked with me. There's testimonials from people who've worked with me. If you do like podcasts, you do, um, if you want to learn how to be a better dad, it's not like I'm sitting here saying I'm the best dad in the world, but it's more I interview dads to really remind us dads that whether you're an executive, you're a fireman, you're a teacher, you're a pro athlete, reminding us that our kids don't give two shits what we do. Our male ego says they care, but they don't. But what's most important is our kids want to know, like, hey, can you come rebound for me? Can you help me with my homework? Can you take me to ice cream? Where are we going on vacation? Can I have an issue with a friend. So my goal is to really humble us all, dads, to say that, what are the values that drive us? And for me, I always try to keep working on humility, vulnerability, and curiosity. So that's like a theme of the podcast. But I would encourage people to reach out. I'm very active on, like I said, LinkedIn, and I love connecting with new people, and I love helping people meet other people. So, and if you think I'm full, you know what? Prove me wrong. If there's someone I think needs to meet, I love connecting people on LinkedIn, and I do not keep score.
Yeah. Love that. Well, Casey, I think a lot of people are going to find this conversation to be beneficial, and I think a lot of people will be able to take something away from this, or will create curiosity to learn more about yourself and what you're all about, and look into your book. And so, man, thanks again for coming on the podcast, and can't wait to share it. As I know I know a lot of people I know for a fact will reach out to me asking questions and are going to be very interested in this. So thanks again.
Yeah. One thing I'll say too before I forget, I've learned that there's a lot of people that don't like reading; they like listening to books, and so my book is on Audible as well. I narrate it myself. So if you want me to read like a bedtime story to you, it's me. It's my voice. So I would say that. But yeah, thanks again for thinking of me and having me on. I appreciate your kind words and support of the book, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if anyone's interested in the audiobook or purchasing, the link is on the Books for Guys website. So just click on the logo and it'll take you right to Amazon. We'll add a link to your website too, Casey, so people can find you
Cool.
there. But man, thanks again. Can't wait to share this.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Casey.